So I do a book show in Much, where talk to
You do what?
A book show.
Oh.
Talk to different people about favorite books that you've read and how it's inspired you, or what you learned from it, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have a book that that comes back to you every once in a while?
Yeah. Well, I've read Perfume by Patrick Susskind about 10 times in my life, and I can't stop reading it. It's like something that's just stationary in my pocket all the time. It just doesn't leave me, and every time I'm bored, like I'm on an airplane or something, I read it over and over again. Because I'm a hypochondriac, and it just affects me. It makes me want to cut my nose off.
What's the book about?
It's about this perfume apprentice in France at the turn of the century, and he is just disgusted basically with all humans, and he just can't get away from humans. So he goes on this trek, this walk of death, where he goes into the rural areas where there's woods all over the place in the small villages, and he only travels by night, and he just, every time he smells human, like a fire from a far off way, he'll just get really disgusted and hide, and he just tries to stay away from people. And I can relate to that.
Do you ever use what you read in any of your songs?
As a matter of fact, I use that very story in Scentless Apprentice. Yeah. So that's really one of the first times that I've ever used an actual story, as a book, as an example of a song. I've always tried to stay away from that, but now that I'm running out of ideas more and more, I tend to do that.
Is it hard when you spend your whole life doing the first few albums, and then suddenly everybody needs your attention, you have to do interviews, you have to travel around, and suddenly is it hard to come up with ideas?
I don't know. I've just noticed that people expect more of a thematic angle with our music. They always want to read into it. And before, I was just using pieces of poetry and just garbage, just stuff that just would spew out of me at the time. And a lot of times when I write lyrics, it's just at the last second because I'm really lazy. So, and then I find myself having to come up with explanations for it, So I thought I'd, prevent that this time and actually have an explanation for some of the songs at least.
There's a lot of baby references in all the songs. I didn't think there would be, but you have like wombs, baby's breath, baby throw up, baby
throw up?
Baby, there's baby everywhere. Lying. This is obviously become a huge part of your life.
It has been a part of my life before Courtney was even pregnant, though. I've always been just fascinated with medical texts and charts, and I guess I secretly want to be a doctor or something. I don't know, or a person that works in a cremation factory. I don't know. I've always liked anatomy. Ever since I was a little kid. When I first got that little model of the Invisible Man, or the Visible Man. It's just something I really like. And since I've become a big rock star and made a bunch of money, I found this place in the Mall of America in Minneapolis that sells nothing but medical stuff. It's a medical supply store that they've offered to the public. It's really great. I bought all these fetuses and anatomy men and charts and stuff, and it was like a dream come true. Because I've always been really poor, and if I could find something like that in a second-hand store, I'd barely have enough money to buy it. And a lot of times I couldn't buy that stuff, so I just went on this rampage of buying all this stuff. And I think I've overused it, for like pictures for the album, and I don't know. I just went overboard on it.
The old saying that you can't buy happiness. You think that's true?
Well, yeah, you can't buy happiness. I mean, that made me happy for a little while. But, I mean, I was just probably almost just as happy with, I don't know, I look back on going to secondhand stores and stuff like that and finding a little treasure like that. And that actually meant more to me because it was more of a stab in the dark in a way, because you didn't know if you're going to be able to afford it, and you don't know what you're really looking for, and when you find it, it's more special to you rather than having $1,000 and going into a store like that and just buying the whole store. It's not as special.
because you've achieved so much success, I mean, so quickly, so surprisingly, you've had a baby, you're married. What excites you now?
My baby and my marriage. I don't know. I still like playing too. I mean, Chris and Dave and I haven't changed at all. I mean, believe it or not, we get along just as well as we ever did. You know, we're just as the same passive-aggressive people as we used to be. You know, we never fight. And when we're pissed off at each other, we just hold it under our breath and have respect for one another in that way. You know, it's just, it's easier to work that way. You know, because we have a mission, I guess.
How do you personally cope with having relationships, private relationships that are always being scrutinized publicly? It must be really difficult.
Well, it is, but I mean, I still have a lot of the same friends that I used to have, so they don't seem to mind, and that isn't ever really exposed too much. You know, no one writes about how me and my friend Dylan walked down the street and, you know, did whatever, but
yeah, but they rip apart you and Courtney. They love to do that.
Yeah, I don't know why, but you know, we're just I don't know. I guess like my ego could be talking right now, and I could say, well, we're interesting people, you know, but I think we're just easy scapegoats. It's just, you know, it started with something, and then, you know, people just pick up on it and carry it along, and we turn into cartoon characters, and there's nothing I can do about it, really. You know, I can threaten to sue and, you know, try to you know, bring up libel laws and stuff like that to people that write shit like that about us, but, you know, if you've ever looked into that, it's pretty much a lost cause. You have to have a lot of money to do that, and, you know, I could spend the money that I earned last year all on fighting the Vanity Fair piece, you know, and they'd end up winning because they have more money, you know, so.
There's a magazine in Canada that incorporates itself for each issue, and then it goes bankrupt on each issue so that it could write whatever it wants and no one could ever sue them.
Wow, that's a pretty smart thing to do.
Yeah, it is.
That kind of reminds me of how a lot of stations in the States got a hold of our new album, but it was like someone had anonymously sent them like 5th generation cassette copies of our new album, and in order for them to play it, they started on the weekend at 5 o'clock, like on Friday nights. That way they could play it throughout the rest of the weekend without having a council, you know, sue them. And I don't know, that's kind of smart, you know.
It's free publicity for you anyway. Ultimately, the album's going to come out.
That's true, but the thing is that there's been so much controversy about how bad the record sounds, you know, and how lo-fi it is. And to hear it like that compared to all the other songs that were on the radio that night, it really disgusted me, and it pissed me off because it sounded terrible. It sounded really, really bad. And then everyone that heard it that weekend is going to say, yeah, you're right. Okay, the stories are true. The Nirvana album really sucks, and I'm not going to buy it, you know. So it just kind of bothered me, but we took care of it.
What'd you do?
Well, I thought maybe we should hire a lawyer to stop them to do it. Then instead I just decided to hire a hitman.
Pardon me?
Nothing. Erase that. No, we just called them up on Monday and told them to stop.
And they went, oh, okay.
Well, our lawyer did that. Yeah.
Isn't it a weird world for you to suddenly have lawyers and like people who do stuff like that for you?
Yeah. It's totally unnecessary too. If we weren't in this position, we wouldn't need lawyers, you know. It's total unnecessary, and we have to spend a lot of money just to protect ourselves all the time, and it's just stupid.
When did that first hit you? When did you realize that you're going to need some people on your team to protect you from the vultures?
Too late. You know, much after the fact, after we'd already been damaged to a point where it, you know, almost didn't do any good, you know. But I don't know, it was just a weird realization one day, you know. Wow, I have to, you know, and I can see how like rock and roll stars will all of a sudden, will almost compromise their music to make sure that they sell the same amount of records next year because they've spent all their money on lawyers and protecting themselves last year, you know. But I mean, we obviously haven't done that. I mean, I don't know, maybe you might not have noticed, but the record isn't as commercial as the last one, so we could never bring ourselves to do that, you know. I'd rather just laugh about it. And I don't know.
I was talking to Amy Mann, a girl from Till Tuesday. She was at our office just a couple days ago. She's on tour with the Kinks, and Ray Davies was in the office also. He came in before her. And I had mentioned to her that he was very nice, but really eccentric when I was talking to him, kind of nutty. And she said, well, you know, there's a lot of people who have been around the record business for those many years, and most of them are kind of nutty. It just, you know, it makes people nutty.
Yeah.
I mean, you're facing that. That's your future.
Yeah, that's my future. Hopefully we'll put out Metal Machine music next year, you know. I don't know. Either I've accepted it or I've gone beyond insane to where I can deal with it emotionally. I really don't care. I know that I'm too stubborn to allow myself to ever compromise our music or, you know, get so wrapped up in it and involved to where it's going to, you know, turn us into big rock stars. I mean, I just don't feel like that. Everyone else accuses us of it, but, you know, we're not as popular as everyone thinks, or we're not as rich as everyone thinks, you know? It's just, we've always had a good sense of humor. I don't think that's been translated very well, you know, but we'd rather laugh about it. Ha ha ha.
You know what really surprised me though is you're pretty bright, and your lyrics are, and just your whole stage persona is pretty angry, angst-ridden, frustrated. I mean, you see the world for what it is. Did you ever have second thoughts about bringing a child into the world the way it is? Oh
yeah, absolutely, yeah. I really can't describe what changed our attitude so fast. I think, you know, I really was a lot more negative and angry and everything else a few years ago, but that had a lot to do with not having a mate, you know, not having a steady girlfriend and stuff like that. So you know, that was one of the main things that was bothering me, that I wouldn't admit at the time, you know. So now that I've found that, the world seems a lot better for some reason, you know. It really does change your attitude about things, you know. I mean, 4 years ago I would have said, you know, the classic thing like, you know, how dare someone bring a child into this life, you know. It's completely a terrible way to go, and, you know, the world's going to explode any day and stuff like that. But once you fall in love, it's a bit different.
I don't want to know about it. Stop. George and I are not in the best love situations right now, so we'll stop talking about that. We'll change the subject. What I want to talk to you about.
I'm not boasting about it. It's just something
nice.
That's really
it's really nice
weird.
To talk about it. That, you know, that you have something like that to talk about. It's nice. You know.
Can you hold this for a while? Do you mind? I'm feeling a little weak.
You know that this whole grunge thing, that this in quotations grunge, all I want to know is, where did the term come from?
I have no idea. I think some of the rumors are that Jonathan Poneman said it one time sarcastically, and it just caught on.
Who's that?
He's one of the head honchos at Sub Pop Records. But no one set out to market this music as that, you know. Just, you know, that's what happens when the media catches on. You know, they have to call it something. I like it as much as New Wave. I would have been proud to be a New Waver, you know, 15 years ago.
Oh yeah, well, we were about the same age. I was into New Wave, absolutely. Do you think you have some of the same, is there anything the same between your music and New Wave?
I think so.
Like what?
Well, like, you know, New Wave was just a progression from punk rock and a mutation of punk rock, you know, and it was more commercial and more palatable, you know. It had, you know, punk rock roots, and it was easier to swallow for the media and middle America and the middle of the world, and it's just, you know, that's what I kind of think about our music.
Are you worried about a Nirvana backlash?
Hasn't that already been over with? Hasn't that already happened? I don't know. Sure. No. I don't know.
Okay. What else I want to talk to you about?
But we're getting more New Wave as the days go by. I think we're going to reinvent New Wave and bring back breakdancing. I'd really like to bring back New Wave and breakdancing, you know, meld it to something, I don't know. That's what our new music is sounding like. We're using a lot more effects boxes, and we haven't resorted to skinny ties, but I think our music's, you know, this album's like the closing of the chapter of the formula we've been using, you know. It's like grunge is really kind of boring for us, you know. It's something we can't deny, and we're not going to stop playing the old songs live. Whoops. And, but, you know, our tastes are just changing so rapidly that we're really experimenting with a lot of stuff, and it might get too indulgent and be really embarrassing for the next album, but we can't put out another album, and this is just like the last chapter of 3-chord grunge music for us. And it was an easy thing to do and a safe thing to do because we knew it's still popular, you know, but we had to get it out of our systems.
How come you are so nice, and you seem so comfortable with yourself? Something must have really happened in the last couple of years. Is it just falling in love?
No.
What happened?
I've always been a nice guy.
Maybe you were afraid to show it before. How's that?
Well, what? I don't know. You've never met me before,
I never met
so.
you before, but I know that other people who have had the opportunity to interview, and they said, oh, he hates doing interviews, he's not going to want to talk about anything.
Well,
I said, well, you know, whatever, who knows? And you're just like exactly the opposite of...
It just depends on what mood I'm in, really. Yeah, I'm kind of a moody person, and a lot of times when someone has had the chance to talk to me, I've probably been on tour, or I've probably gone through an exhaustive time where I've talked about myself for hours and hours, and this week I haven't had to talk about myself very much, so
Lucky
probably
me.
more cooperative.
I think one of the interesting things about Nirvana that you don't really talk about that much is that you're very concerned about sexism. I like that. That's good. So how do you make people aware of that problem?
By writing songs as blunt as Rape Me. Having to resort to doing something like that is almost embarrassing because people didn't understand when we wrote a song like about a girl or Polly, and having to explain that and having misunderstandings about it, I decided to write Rape Me in a way that was just so blunt and obvious that it's like no one could deny it, you know, no one could read into it any other way, you know, although some people have actually, because some of the lyrics in it, some people have thought that maybe it has something to do with my disgust with the media and the way they've treated us and stuff like that, but it's not true. That's not what the song's about at all. It's just my way of, in a sarcastic way almost, of like just saying how obvious do we have to be, you know. And I guess we don't talk about those kind of things that, you know, that are really important to us because I don't want to be thought of as like nothing more than a PC band, you know. I mean, we're entertainers. You know, that's what music is, and so it's really hard to, you know, step over the lines, you know.
Just that you have so much power because that camera's on you. Right, you can use it.
Yeah, well, we try to use our power. I mean, we've really have been effective in certain ways, like being associated with this organization called FAIR, and I can't remember it right now because I have a mental block of exactly what it stands for, but it's something like, shit, I can't remember. but they're an organization who looks at the injustices that are, they look at the details that surrounds certain issues and certain stories that have been reported in magazines and newspapers like USA Today, who tend to, you know, look over a lot of the facts, and they're pretty much a leftist organization that tries to protect people in certain areas, you know, and they supposedly try as hard as they can to, you know, to deliver the truth, and So, you know, we've done benefits like that for like No on 9 benefits to try to stop Portland's anti-gay laws that they were trying to pass, and we did a Bosnian benefit and stuff like that. And, you know, it doesn't seem like much, but, you know, we raised like $50,000 for the Bosnian rape victims, you know, and that's a lot more than we could have done griping about it and talking about it in interviews and like maybe putting out a fanzine. You know, there's nothing wrong with doing stuff like that, but, you know, we're using the tools that we have, you know, and we're being effective as much as we can. But we still don't want to be too political at the same time, you know, because it's just kind of embarrassing to do that. Or, you know, you get a lot of ridicule for it.
Yeah, but you're doing what you believe in, and that's the most important thing.
Well, it's hard not to, you know. I mean, if you're put in this position, what are you going to do? You become a Republican or something? You know, just to protect what you've earned, big deal.
We're doing.
Sorry, I have to change tape.
Okay, I'm going to ask a couple more questions and then let you free.
Okay.
I am rolling.
Okay.
Is it all right to smoke on Canadian television?
It's too late now. You're already out of sure. Do what you want.
I've only had
we're doing
3.
a special on the Replacements. And I was just wondering if they had at all any influence on you as a songwriter, on the music you make.
I kind of wish they did, because there's so many comparisons to us. You know, I have to be honest, I really didn't like the Replacements when I was into punk rock music. I listened to them, and I mean, I liked the sound of it, and I don't know if that... I think my appreciation for R.E.M. and the Beatles and stuff like that had more to do with it, because I really wasn't aware of Soul Asylum and the Replacements and those bands. I mean, I knew about them, and I actually saw them live and stuff, and I just didn't get it. I didn't like it that much.
Can we have a comment, please, on... I'll wait till you light this one, because this is such an... What is your comment on Muzak being being here at the capital of Muzak, being here in Seattle?
Well, it's an obvious thing to happen, you know, something that you'd expect. Oh, I thought you were talking about the Muzak this Muzak record that they put out of Grunge Light.
Oh, the Grunge Light. Oh, what do you think of that?
It's
that
great.
Girl?
Sure, it's an obvious thing to happen, you know. It's the last chapter on the book of grunge. But the Muzak capital. That's where, so this is the place where most Muzak comes from? I didn't even know that. I thought there was just, you know, one station here.
Seattle is the capital of Muzak.
Thanks for letting me know about that.
You thought it was grunge? No. Oh, we were there, but they're not doing your songs.
Oh, bummer.
They said it was too aggressive? It would make people too excited.
Oh, well. We have some pretty songs too. God, that's really a bummer. That upsets me. But I don't know. Muzak, that's pretty neat.
But they didn't like the Grunge Light album because the woman sent a copy to them, and
really?
they didn't like it because it was too electronic, and they're into using real musicians.
Oh yeah, I like that idea better too. I liked it when Devo did their Muzak version of their songs. That was really neat. Did you ever hear that? That was nice. And I think they use real musicians for that.
Did you get to hang out with them, Devo?
Mm-hmm.
I know that you're a bit of a fan of theirs.
No. Never met them.
Did you get to meet anyone who would be like your hero? Anyone that you're real pleased that you got to meet?
Yeah. That's kind of a positive side of being a rock and roll star. But no, actually I met Iggy Pop before we were rock and roll stars. And Iggy Pop is pretty much the only person that I've met that I really, really admire and like. And
when you met him, were you pleased?
Yeah, it was a big excitement. I mean, it was great. I didn't ask him for an autograph. I tried not to bother him the way that I thought that I might be bothered. But I don't know. And then the other person is William Burroughs. I met him, and I actually got to put out a record with him. So.
Yeah, tell me about the record that you're doing with William Burroughs.
Well, it's already out. It's just a 10-inch. It's just one story of his called The Priest They Called Him. And it was a long-distance recording. He had recorded his version, and then I just played a bunch of guitar noises in the background, and they mixed it somewhere else, and it came out. And now we're talking about putting out a whole album.
Wow.
Yeah.
Of him reading his work and you playing guitar underneath?
Yeah, I think I'll play a bunch of instruments this time instead of just, you know, fucking off like I did before. You know, it was just a last minute thing where I just made a bunch of noise, but this time I'd like to kind of work on it. Maybe I'll do a Muzak version.
I'm sure William Bros would love that, a little bit of Muzak. Let me just make sure I have all my questions asked, and this is one that Tori Amos, did you like the cover of Smiley?
Well, it served a purpose because we used that as the opening. Before we came out, we'd play that song, and then we'd come out and dance to it, do a little bit of interpretive dancing to it. Yeah, it was nice, yeah.
The last thing I want to ask you about is, I'm not sure who in your band said it, it could have been you, could have been someone else, but someone being a little perturbed by your mainstream audience and wanting to just make music for your real fans.
Well, you know, a couple of years ago when we were making these bold negative statements about things like that, you know, we were really confused and we were scared, we were afraid that we would lose a lot of our audience that meant a lot to us because they're people that, you know, we hopefully feel that we have a connection with, you know, the college students and people in the underground, and I don't think we've lost them. I think they're still fans, so I'm not worried about it anymore. And I was at the time. What? So many people would be expecting me to talk about, to be writing about the last 2 years and our past experiences with, you know, drugs and having a new child and all the press coming down on us and stuff like that. I decided to just use experiences from books and other stories instead of even dealing with my life. You know, I mean, there's a little bit of my life, personal things in it, but for the most part, it's just. It's very unpersonal, you know, impersonal, you know, and I think that'll be a surprise to a lot of people. I think the general consensus was that the album may not sell as much, and so they were concerned with that, you know, but they never ever once put any pressure on us. They just basically told us their feelings and their thoughts of what they thought of the record. You know, most people don't like the record. You know, a lot of my friends don't even like the record.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, but
do you like the record?
I love it. I think it's great. Chris and Dave and I, all three of us are totally excited about it. We've achieved exactly what we've been wanting to achieve for the last 2 records. This is the sound that we've had in our heads that has never been able to transfer. I really don't care what anyone thinks about my past drug use. I can put the blame on that kind of influence, but it's a mixture of, you know, rock and roll in general, you know, the Keith Richards thing and Iggy Pop and all those other people that did drugs. I just thought it was just one of those things that you do, you know, to relieve the pain. But, you know, as I expected, before I started doing heroin, I realized that I knew at the beginning that it would become just as boring as marijuana does, you know. Like all drugs, after a few months, it's just as boring as, you know, breathing air, you know. So I just don't want to try. I've always lied about it because I didn't want to influence anybody, you know. I didn't want anyone to even consider the thought of doing drugs because it's really stupid. You know? There's nothing more embarrassing than a group of people walking up to you and shaking and clamoring and you know, and praising you like you're some kind of fucking god or something. It's embarrassing.
People are always telling you, you're so great, you're so good, your band is so great, you know, you changed rock and roll. And you just sort of think, no, I didn't, you know, nothing's changed really. And I don't see, I'm not great, I don't understand why everybody's so enamored by the band. There's so many bands in Seattle now. Seattle is the new Los Angeles, you know. And that's kind of upsetting because Seattle was a city that, it was a clean city and it was a small city and there was no traffic and there was no air pollution. And it was something really great that a lot of people were attracted to. So they moved there. And, you know, the more people that move to the city, the bigger and worse the city gets.
I was a big heavy metal fan for years in junior high school, and I have nothing against heavy metal fans at all, you know, except for, you know, some of the, you know, for the most part, most heavy metal has always been pretty sexist, so, you know, there are a lot of areas in it that I don't agree with, but that's no reason to exclude a person from, you know, having the opportunity to listen to your music. It might be nice to eventually start playing acoustic guitars and be thought of as a singer and a songwriter rather than a grunge rocker, you know? Because then I might be able to take advantage of that when I'm older and sit down on a chair and play acoustic guitar like Johnny Cash or something, you know? And it won't be a big joke, but who knows? When we play live, we lack a lot of things because I have to concentrate on so many different areas at once, you know. I've always lacked in any kind of participation or any kind of feelings with the audience, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can never really, because I'm concentrated on my guitar and I have to remember the lyrics and I have to remember to push these little buttons down on my fuzz pedals and stuff, and I have to sing and all this stuff, and it you know, it just confuses me. I can't chew gum and walk at the same time, so I'm expected to do like 6 things at once, and so just adding another guitar player is totally a relief. It just really helps. It's great. And we got this guy, Pat Smear, who's in the Germs. The pleasure I get out of it is knowing that many people like the music, you know. But I was validated beyond any expectations when we were playing in clubs, you know. Just to have that many people, just to have 50 or 100 people tell you that they like your music is fine enough with me, you know. So I've never been afraid of any kind of failure. We like to change with every song. Like every song, I'll twiddle my knobs and turn them into a different sound. So I just don't like to repeat things. We're kind of passive-aggressive in a way, you know. We don't confront one another if we're pissed off at each other. We just let the other person know that we're bothered by something that they've said, and then just forget about it, you know. That's really the only way to work with somebody. None of us have really that aggressive of personalities, really. We're all pretty much the same kind of people, you know. So we started as friends, and I can't see anything getting in the way to stop us from being friends.
I mean, there was a time when there was I'd say a breakdown in communication, but right now, and I think for most of the part since about for the good part of the last year, there's been good relations between everybody. I mean, Kurt and Courtney come over for dinner, you know what I mean? They bring the kid over, everything's great.
To tell you the truth, I would rather just quit my band and join Hole, you know, but only because when I have played music with them, there's a level of connection that's a little bit higher than with anyone else that I've ever played with. It's amazing. It's something that's totally satisfying for Courtney and I, but completely unrealistic because we're already so intertwined with each other, and you know, everyone doesn't even, most people don't even think of the band Nirvana anymore. They think of Kurt and Courtney, you know, and it's just too much. It gets in the way. People would overlook the music and look into other things, you know, and it just wouldn't be taken seriously enough. So I'd like to someday, but as of now, I couldn't see anything for the next 5 years or so. We still jam together every once in a while. It's a sad situation. I really wish we could just join bands, you know. We wanted to have a title that related to the good majority of the themes that are on the album, which are mostly medical themes, you know, sickness and death and rebirth and having to be restrained in a bed with an IV in your arm and being sick all the time. You know, I for some reason see a connection between death and life and being sick all the time, and I'm just kind of obsessed with it, so I had to get it out of my system. I would say it's more biographical of the way I felt a few years ago, to tell you the truth. It's not really as personal as a lot of people would like it to be. I actually had some themes on this album that don't have anything to do with my life at all. So, in a way, yeah, for a few songs.
And I like the record, and the record sounds like Nirvana. It doesn't sound like Nirvana in the studio. It sounds like Nirvana in the room, you know. It sounds exactly like the band. And that's why I like it, because it's not.
I kind of envy people at times who are blissfully happy, and a lot of those people aren't bothered with the complications of knowledge and everything else that life has to offer. You know, I know a lot of people who are simpletons, you know, they're very simple, that they can enjoy their lives and be totally happy and secure with, you know, just watching sports on television and having a beer every once in a while, you know. So, and I've always felt too complicated, so I kind of envy those people. And I'm not saying that I'm smarter than most people, it's just that I'm too sensitive, and I wish sometimes I could just enjoy the simple things in life, you know, and just not forget about everything else. I'm a great father.
Damn it.
Damn it. Aren't I? No, I love my child. It's really fun. Really fun. I had no idea. Yeah, it has. It's made me a lot more positive, you know. I have a goal now, you know. I have a child to raise, and so that gives me more reason to want to live, you know.
No, we didn't call him gay, because I don't think we'd ever use gay in a derogatory term, you know what I mean? It's weird. There's like some kind of weird feud that started. I think Axl started talking some nonsense on stage in Florida, said some mean things, and then when we were at the MTV Music Awards, Kurt and Courtney said something to him. Like, I think Kurt was holding their baby, and Courtney said, like, Axl, you're going to be the godfather. You're going to be the godfather. And he got mad, and he told him to shut up. And then one thing led to another. It's really silly. And then we said some nasty things about him at this show in Portland, Oregon. It was a benefit show for the No on 9, this measure that was going to discriminate against homosexuals in Oregon. Some fascist law, you know what I mean? Franco would have been proud. But, and then what happened? And then he said some bad stuff about us on stage in Seattle, but he got booed because he couldn't get away with that in our town. And we haven't heard anything else from him, and it's basically really silly stuff, you know. I think it's kind of funny, and if I can instigate more stuff, I will, just for the heck of it, you know. I'd like to meet him. I've met him once briefly, you know, hi, how are you, and that's it. But I'd like to meet with him and maybe discuss things, resolve a few things, maybe engage in some kind of dialogue. Maybe we can have some negotiations mediated by David Geffen in his office, you know. We'll have our list of demands and they'll have their list of demands, and we'll just do some process of elimination. We'll find some common ground, and we'll have it'll probably hold like a Sarajevo ceasefire, but it'll be worth a try. Any kind of comparison is just kind of weird, you know what I mean? I mean, are they comparing us on the basis that we're a trio? Do I look like Sting? I mean, you know, it just boils down to it's all rock and roll. It's a guitar, bass, and drums, and a vocal, and you know, it sure doesn't sound like Bach or techno or something. You know, it's like kind of rock and roll music. So people are going to compare you to anything because people need a reference point. You know what I mean? Or they're just reaching out in an empty space. They got to grab onto something and then take it from there. You know.
Por algún motivo veo una conexión entre la vida y la muerte y estar enfermo todo el día, y estoy un poco obsesionado con todo eso. Cuando me deprimo mucho hago la estúpida equivocación de escuchar a Leonard Cohen, lo cual me deprime aún más. Me gusta mucho Leonard Cohen, es maravilloso. Me gusta mucho Sartre, sí, así es como se pronuncia. Me gusta mucho Beckett. ¿No es francés? Samuel Beckett. Es una canción marchosa, no es deprimente, pero el tema es muy serio. Es una canción antiviolación. Decidí ser muy crudo sobre ello y en vez de escribir una canción sobre una violación, decidí componer y pensé, estoy componiendo una canción sobre la violación. O sea, que titúlala Viólame y di Viólame y dilo muchas veces.
I think the bonus track on the CD are gallons of rubber alcohol, and so far it sounds very spontaneous. Did you record that on the spot?
Which song is it?
We made that song up on the spot. I just started playing that guitar part, and then Chris and Dave just started playing, and then as we were recording, and I just made up the lyrics.
That's that one song, we recorded this song in Rio de Janeiro.
Oh, yeah.
At this tiny BMG B studio that hasn't been used for like 60 years. They had this like M.E.A.T board, they blew the dust off it, and we just plugged in and just started screwing around. And we did that song. It was total spontaneous, you know, it was just one of those things.
Yeah, it gives that feeling.
It's free association.
What the hell does the title mean anyway?
In utero, I think there's like an in vitro pregnancy, and there's
no, I mean of that song.
Oh, gallons of rubbing alcohol will cleanse this strip. Well,
I guess it's our contempt for the hairspray, Guns N' Roses Poison scene that was going on in LA a few years ago.
Something else I found it. I know one question beforehand. The way you recorded was just on an 8-track machine. Is that news?
No, that's not. It's a 24-track. It's the same board that recorded Back in Black by AC/DC.
Yeah.
And what was the story that some of the songs had been remixed?
2 songs were remixed.
Which were?
Heart-Shaped Box and All Apologies. Because the vocals weren't loud enough, and I wanted to put some harmony vocals in the background that I failed to do when we were recording with Steve, so we asked Scott Litt to come down and do it. It took about a day or 2.
What I noticed as well, not only on this record, but on the records before too, there are some very fine harmonies and melodies in it, which makes me wonder, does one of you had sort of a musical education?
I don't think any of us.
Absolutely not.
Nothing at all.
I have no concept of knowing how to be a musician at all whatsoever. I mean, I don't know the names of chords to play. I don't know how to do major and minor chords on a guitar at all. I mean, I couldn't even pass, you know, guitar 101, folk guitar 101, you know. Everyone knows more than I do.
I took accordion lessons when I was a little kid.
I played the trombone, I think, when I was about 8. For real.
I was in band and I played snare drum during junior high and grade school. And I never learned how to read music. I just copied the other people that took the time to learn how to read. And it was just so simple. You know, boom, tap, boom, tap, boom, tap, 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 tap. And I just copied them, you know, just to pass. I didn't see any reason to. Even at that age, I didn't see any reason to learn anything that someone else has written, you know. If you go by a text, then you're pretty limited, you know.
Do you consider do you consider yourself being more a songwriter or a guitar player?
Oh, songwriter. I have no desire to become any better of a guitar player. I just don't. I'm not into musicianship at all. I don't have any respect for it. I just hate it. You know, to learn how to read music or to understand arpeggios and Dorian modes and all that stuff is just a waste of time. It just you know, it gets in the way of originality.
Do you like Leonard Cohen? And are there other writers who you could name as sort of an influence or people who impressed you in what they were doing?
Well, yeah, just mostly, you know, early to late 80s punk rock, American punk rock, and then, you know, late 70s English punk rock. Yeah, that had a lot to do with stuff that I was into. I was just pretty much consumed with that whole scene for so long that I never really denied any of the other influences that I had before, which is like the Beatles and Stones and stuff like that, dinosaur rock. But
what about writers like lyricists or poetries?
Probably Beckett's my favorite. I like him a lot.
Because, I mean, sometimes when I read or listen to the lyrics, it sounds to me as if you're sort of inspired by the beat writers too.
Yeah,
especially
Burroughs is
Burroughs.
the king. Yeah, yeah. I actually got to do a record with him, a 10-inch record.
You are doing
William. It's already out. Yeah, he did a passage from a poem called "The Priest They Called Him," and I played guitar in the background. Just made a bunch of noise.
What is this guy like?
It's just I don't know. I never met him. I could have talked to him the other day. I was supposed to. There was it was a set-up meeting for him to call me because we wanted him to be in our next video because of mostly not because of our association with him or to exploit anything like that, because, you know, maybe because I don't want anyone to think that I want to have a relationship with William Burroughs because of, like, you know, my past drug use or my respect of him or anything. We mainly wanted him to be in our video because he's an odd-looking character. You know, we wanted an older gentleman to be in our video and to do a few things, but we realized that the things that we wanted this older person to do was a bit degrading to have William Burroughs himself do it. You know, we wanted a person to be on a cross and in a hospital bed and stuff like that, and it was just too insulting to ask him, so I canceled the call. I mean, that was my chance of actually meeting him, and we've exchanged a letter through fax, and you know, we have respect for what each other does, but I've never really had the opportunity. I mean, other than that, I haven't bothered to, you know, meet him yet, but I still want to.
Yeah, he must be a great guy.
Yeah.
I would love to meet him one day.
Yeah, his letter was really nice.
On one or two songs, you hear a cello or a some string arrangement. Was that played live?
No, it was. We had her come in after the basic tracks were down and had her play along with it.
Is that the cello player you had in New York too?
No, this cello player was Steve Albini's girlfriend at the time. And it was just a matter of convenience. She happened to play cello and we needed one, so she was there. She turned out great. She did a really good job.
Another question to Kurt again. You're left-handed. Do you find it hard to get the right guitar for you?
Usually, yeah. It's a bit easier now because I have an endorsement with Fender guitars now, so they're making me left-handed Mustangs, and so it's a lot easier. It used to be a total pain in the ass. I mean, when we were on our first couple of tours, you know, I'd only have one guitar, and it would have to be cheap, you know, a $30 guitar from a pawn shop, and I'd end up breaking it after the show, and then the next day was consumed with trying to find a pawn shop and the few dollars that we had to buy a guitar, and then we'd have to turn the strings around and try to intonate it ourselves, and it just made for a really out of tune, raunchy experience, you know, during those first few years.
It was a pain in the ass trying to find a guitar.
Yeah, it was like the biggest dilemma of the day.
This one will work left-handed. Yeah, it's cut. This part's notched a little bit, you know.
It was a big hassle.
All the electronics are on the top.
In fact, we even built a bunch of Mustangs one time. We bought some necks and took pieces of wood and cut out the bodies and put the necks on, and they were completely out of tune all the time. And we did a pretty good job at it.
We had this little assembly line in the garage, and we hung them up and painted them and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed you used some quite unique-looking guitars on stage anyway. Were those the ones you built yourself?
I don't think so. Those were all destroyed in one tour. That was about like 4 years ago, probably, at least. But the ones I use now are just, I use this same Jaguar a lot, and mostly Mustangs. And I'm having Fender build me a special guitar that's like a mixture of a Mustang and a Jaguar, which might be kind of interesting.
Did you give them the directions what you wanted?
Yeah. Yeah, I took a picture of a Jaguar with a Polaroid and a picture of a Mustang, and then cut them down the middle and glued them together and said, "Build this."
This record, Nouveau, is getting more back towards bleach, and you said like months ago that you want to get rid of some of the fans who just came from the pop side. Do you think you will achieve that, or is the name Nirvana already gone so big that the fans will buy everything? Doesn't matter what it is.
I don't know. I don't think so, because when we put out Incesticide, it didn't sell very well at all. It didn't even sell like a few 100,000 copies, you know.
Don't want to exclude anybody or anything, you know.
No, we're not as concerned with that as we used to be. You know, it's not.
I think that was like being a little reactionary.
Yeah.
Kind of going through the whole fame and fortune thing and just making statements like that. It's, you know.
There's nothing you can do about it. You know, you can put on a cabaret show and, you know, just make a total mockery out of your success, or just deal with it. You know?
I guess, especially in the beginning, it must have been pretty hard to deal with that.
Yeah, it was, because we were really concerned with losing the audience that was into us before, you know. Yeah. We still wanted those people because, you know, supposedly we feel like we relate to them in a way, you know. I mean, those are the kind of people that we share common interests with, and those are the people that we're friends with, you know, so we were really worried about that. But I don't think we've lost very many of them, so it doesn't matter anymore. As long as they're there, we can, you know, just forget about the idiots in the back, you know, as long as they aren't causing trouble. That was another concern that we had, is that if we were to have this massively mainstream audience, that we were going to come across a lot of problems in live shows, you know, with with macho guys beating up on girls and, you know, starting fights and things like that. You know, the typical things that you see at a Van Halen show or something, you know. We just didn't want to have to deal with something like that.
I guess you must have found it pretty hard too, like getting that intensity the band has when you back. Do you sometimes have the feeling that you lose intensity when you play like this big arenas or bigger places?
Yeah, I don't find myself having as much fun as I did when we played in clubs or theaters. The biggest example is that was when we played in Europe, when we played all those outdoor festivals. I had a terrible time. I hated it. Like, Chris and Dave were like 30 feet away from me, you know. It was like, hi, you know, it just didn't seem right. So we're gonna make a few changes in our stage setup to alleviate some of those problems, you know. We're gonna squeeze closer together, you know, on these big stages, and whether that fucks with the visuals for the people out in the audience, oh well, you know, at least we'll play better, you know, enjoy ourselves.
We played in front of like 100,000 people down in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and I just saw the video from the back of the stadium, and just like we were little ants on stage. It's like, God, I go, who was standing there? You know, I wonder how they feel about that.
I don't think our music translates in that kind of situation either, because people can't appreciate the energy that is on stage, at least, you know, because they're so far away.
It's almost understandable why a lot of lead singers in arena rock bands have this rapport with the audience where they're going, hey, how's everybody doing? How are you in the back, people? You know, and stuff like that. Are you feeling all right? Because that's pretty much all you can understand when someone's saying something like that over a PA in front of 100,000 people, you know? It's just, it's hard for us to adapt to that because we just can't do that. We can't bring ourselves to be that ridiculous.
And doing the live shows, like, you know, you try to experience this thing with the audience, kind of reciprocate this feeling, this energy, and I don't know how that translates from 3 people to 100,000 people, you know? It's like mathematically pretty wild.
We need to get a horn section.
Horn
section.
Are you thinking of employing a second guitar player again?
Yeah.
Will it be Big John?
No, we've hired Pat Smear, who's in the Germs. It's working out great.
He's got good energy, so I think that he'll add that to the band live. And if one of us is kind of slacking that night, I think we can count on him to keep the energy going. You know.
It's the backup engine.
But I guess it must make your job a lot easier too.
Yeah, it does. It totally relieves me of a lot of unnecessary things that I have to think about, you know.
Looking back, do you sometimes sort of regret that major success of Nevermind?
I don't.
No, because for the most part, I'm pretty convinced that most people like that record, you know. So the more the merrier. I mean, if the more people that can listen to your music and enjoy it, the better it is, you know.
If it was some big marketing scheme, then I think I'd probably feel guilty. But
yeah, if it was a
if it was like a contrived thing.
But it just happened organically, more organically than anything has in a long time, you know. So
it's flattering.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the beginning, you sometimes had the feeling that even the record company was completely overwhelmed by it. They didn't expect it.
Yeah, they were.
They shipped like 40,000 copies, and it was sold out in like a day or two. Then you couldn't get the record for like a week until they.
Look at that go!
And
it's nice to know that you can sell your music on the music alone, you know? I mean, at the time that it took off, and a lot of radio stations were playing it before we had a video, which is, you know, an uncommon thing in this day and age, you know?
So it's not our pretty faces that are selling the records, it's the music.
And it's so neat. Like
it's our skilled musicianship.
That's right.
I walk into the Fred Meyer department store down in Longview, Washington, this tiny town, and I look and I go, well, there's Mudhoney, there's Sebadoh, there's Sonic Youth. And I go, this is really great. You know what I mean? And before,
just a couple years ago, that was impossible.
Yeah.
Totally uncalled for.
And then kids down there are exposed to that, and I think it's really positive.
It obviously helped a lot of other bands too.
What happened to us has kind of opened a lot of doors. I think we were in the right place at the right time for like a rock and roll, because those old rock dinosaurs, all the poofy-doo hairspray bands were just hanging on and doing the same thing, basically emulating Hanoi rocks like over and over again, and it stagnated like the Soviet economy or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it got just as boring as grunge will within this year. You know.
We did a photo shoot with someone for a cover of a magazine, and he was telling us a story of how Bon Jovi came in and said, he came in with a flannel shirt on, and he said, make me look like Nirvana. And wow. He said, well,
that's pretty flattering.
Bon Jovi wants to look like us. You know something's wrong.
And that just proves he's a desperate, untalented piece of shit.
Do you have yourself an explanation for your success?
Explanation? It's all in the cards.
It's the roll of the dice.
It's a lot of luck.
A lot of luck. I think it was like
being in
timing.
the right place at the right time.
I think the old dinosaurs they just were holding on as long as possible. And we had this really strong song. And like there were like no #1 rock records. Maybe REM was #1, and Metallica came out and stuff. But just change has to happen, you know. Just part of the whole human experience has changed. So
I think that
next we're probably going to be old hacks soon. There's going to be this young happening band going on, and we'll probably be slagging us off as like dinosaurs. We'll be defensive and we'll be so established.
Make me look like this new band. Right?
Yeah. We would have just totally consolidated our relationships with people at MTV, the music labels, and different magazines.
We've apologized to everybody.
We're going to be establishment, and hopefully someone will come by and
begging to
kill
get
us.
a cover of Rolling Stone. Please, I'm sorry.
No, because we're so established. Cover of Rolling Stone, when do you guys want it? Here's another line for you. And we're like just totally terrible. We're hanging out with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. Bruce Willis at their new club.
Yeah, opening a new club.
Hey, I'm a Republican now, Chris. Hey, me too.
What do you say?
Well, it was cool until we had to pay 38% or 36% in taxes. Gee, you know, we got the shaft when we lived under Reagan, and now we're getting the shaft under Clinton. I say we vote for Pat Buchanan.
Rush Limbaugh.
Rush Limbaugh. Those feminazis.
I guess that must be a strange situation anyway, suddenly being involved in like real big business things on the financial side, dealing with tax and whatsoever.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to fucking suffer for, you know, I'll be glad to, you know, throw out more of the money that I made if it's going to be put in the right places, if it's going to help the economy. I mean, everybody should suffer, you know, everyone should start wearing sweaters and turning their heaters down, and, you know, I didn't mind standing in gas lines when I was a little kid during Carter. I mean, I had to sit in the car and wait in line with my dad, and he just cursed Carter all the time. You know, what a bastard. You know, the convenience of America is ruined.
Everybody has to. Bad time.
Yeah, everybody has to swallow a little bit of bad medicine to make things better. So,
you know,
fuck it.
And they're kicking Clinton around, but it's like, remember Nixon and Iran-Contra, Reagan, SNL scandals. Nobody even brings that up, you know. It's just really crazy.
Do you think as a band you have the chance to move something in people's mind, to make them think or at least get a message across?
Well, it's not like a real conscious goal of ours or something that we prepared to do. It's just like it just emulates the personalities that we have, you know. We've always been conscious of political things as much as our, you know, mental capacity can hold, and
we've just been aware of things, and it just kind of surfaces, it comes out just because that's what happens. I mean, we don't have like this angle that we're like a political band or anything.
We've always tried really hard to not put out too much of an image of being too politically conscious, you know, so it gets in the way of the music, because you know, that's more important.
And I think too, like in this country, that people are so apathetic and they're so unconscious in front of their TV sets, and somebody like us who has somewhat awareness, it makes it look like we're really aware. We're not. I mean, you know what I mean? This is just things we're concerned about, and we just talk about them, you know? Just because we talk about them at home, or we talk about it with friends, we just happen to talk about things in interviews, you know?
Have you already made the experience that groups like political or other social groups tried to use you, or the success you have with the name?
No, I wouldn't say they've used us. We've had a few offers from some political organizations, like the FAIR organization, who has been working for years to expose a lot of injustices and to try to promote real truths in a lot of things that have happened politically. You know, it's like an underground leftist organization that tries to expose the truths, and you know, and they're totally masked over by USA Today and magazines like that. You know, right-wing owned magazines that a lot of time the truth and the details of a story aren't ever reported, and that's what this organization does. So they came to us, and of course we're going to, you know, want to do something with them to help them out, because I wouldn't say anyone's tried to take advantage of us in that way at all.
FAIR is an acronym for fairness and accuracy in reporting. And I think I've been really conscious of what's been going on in the media with, you know, being part of the media, you know, and then I just look at the way the press responds, like, you know, being all over the president, or being all over Waco, Texas, or Amy Fisher. You know, it's really interesting. There's a lot of bozos out there who just, they form public opinion. You know, people really don't think for themselves, and they have a big responsibility. So they're just basically exploiting it. And there's this group here that just is into like truth, reality.
So that leads me to...
Just like these bad demagoguery politicians manipulating people and spreading their lies for their own personal gain, you know. Former ex-communists, or ex-communists, or like former ex-communists. I can't get into it today. My brain is weak. Help people out, you know. That's just putting band-aids on the situation until they dispose of the regimes over there.
Right.
There's not going to be any change, you know. They don't even recognize the Serbian opposition. The guy's languishing in prison. They beat the hell out of him. They don't even help the guy out, you know. There were elections in Serbia. The guy Milan Panic, it was a sham election, and nobody did anything about it, you know.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
Where were we? Rock and roll.
After all the experience you've made with media all over the world, do you still believe what you read or see on television?
Never.
Never. I never did before, but I don't believe even more now. I know that I don't even have the right. It's the only thing I've learned. I don't have the right to make an opinion on anything that I read or see on television until I go to the fucking source myself, personally. My attitude has changed so much within the last couple of years, mainly just because of the crap that's been written about us, that I don't even I don't even find myself like having very many opinions on bands anymore, or putting them down, or you know, going out of my way to have any kind of expression about them at all, because I don't know these people, you know. Bon Jovi could be one of the nicest people in the world. His music sucks, but you know, I don't even want to bother with even expressing those kind of opinions anymore, because I know that there are people, you know, probably in this town right now talking about us, you know. So I heard that Chris Novoselic, you know, blah, blah, blah.
With his dog.
With his grandmother's dog. And it has AIDS.
Which is not true, by the way.
I'm just wondering, does that sometimes affect your private life too? I mean, your friends or your family are reading the stories about you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well.
It's weird to talk with your wife's great-grandparents and they bring up something like that. You're just like, man, that's not true at all. Then you have to explain to them how people have different agendas. Each writer has their own perspective, and maybe the magazine editor has an agenda, you know what I mean? And you're at their mercy, basically. So all you can do is be as honest as possible, put on a happy face, roll with the punches.
I mean, frankly, what surprised me, even though I'm working in the media, there were certain magazines where I thought, okay, whatever they print is at least well researched, like Newsweek in America or Spiegel in Germany. I found it quite confusing that even though they made up stories.
Oh yeah.
I was surprised about Newsweek. I thought they were just
I'm not surprised at all.
Caliber, you know?
No magazine has any ethics at all. There isn't any magazine
mainstream magazine.
Yeah, a mainstream magazine that would ever, you know, stop a good story. You know, they want to sell magazines. They're in the entertainment business.
Yeah, that's
they use
the point.
You know, they use politics as some kind of fucking fake tool to sell their magazines.
Right.
But in this case, I thought this is a sort of magazine who have to lose a real reputation as well.
I think we're going to have to get David Gergen.
There is no one that is challenging these magazines, though. You know, there are no protection laws against, you know, false things that are written about celebrities. You know, libel suits are a complete farce. You know, you basically, a libel suit is just a challenge between two people that have a lot of money, you know, and whoever has the most money will win it, you know. And if you go up against Condé Nast or some major corporation that owns a whole bunch of magazines and owns this one magazine that wrote shit about you, they'll just filibuster for years and you'll spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in challenging them and you'll end up losing. So there's really, you can't even get to that first stage of even filing for a libel suit. It's a waste of time.
It's pretty wild, like all the relationships between people and bands and labels and between magazines and all that stuff, you know. You have someone like Bill Clinton had a bad time, so he hired David Gergen, who started throwing parties for the press corps, started smoothing people over because he had relationships, and what do you know? Good news coming out of Washington for Clinton, you know. It's this manufactured perception. It's just like, it's not real. It's all just a charade, you know. And the bottom line is Stoli vodka ads on the back, full-page Stoli vodka ads on the back page, or Marlboro Man ads. You know, they just get that money, and everything in between isn't really that important. Television, same way. So we're going to start our own magazine. It's going to be called The Nerve-Wracker.
Nerve-Wracker.
Yeah.
It's a good name, anyway.
We're going to character assassinations left and right. We're going to schmooze it up with people. Whoever greases our palm the most is going to get a full cover story. You know what I mean? Step one, take the guys out for dinner. I'll have lobster, thank you. Step two,
get me in the show for free.
Yeah, get me in the show for free. Step three, well, I got this niece. She needs I want to get her a Mustang car for. Done. You're on the cover of Nerve-Wracker.
By the way,
Unscrupulous magazine. Go ahead.
How serious do you take all these cliches and standards of the business and the roles people play?
Oh, well, I just think of like the wrestling industry, like WWF, World whatever Federation Wrestling, and there's like Hulk Hogan and all those Rowdy Piper. And can you imagine all the politics going on in there, you know? Well, he's going to win this match, but see, he has to lose this match, and well, they're going to be on this TV show. And it's just like, wow, all the drama, all the egos, personalities, the World Federation Wrestling. It's like, get me out of here.
Yeah. Getting back to the record, is it incidentally that the opening track of the intro of Rape Me sounds a bit like some part in Nevermind?
What part in Nevermind?
Smells like Teen Spirit. I read the question.
I'm just trying to remember that.
Yes.
So,
what was the hit song off the second Knack
It's an
record?
obvious inside joke.
If you play the hit song off the second Knack record, it sounds like My Sharona. If you play it backwards, it sounds like My Sharona.
Really?
So that's what we were doing.
Shit.
But you should. I recommend playing In Utero backwards, and that's. Ooh, I let it slip. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. There's all kinds of Kurt is dead stuff. You know. Total devil worship of the worst kind. Altars, virgin.
Now some
naked.
white trash mothers are going to sue us after they beat their children for a few years and neglect them, and then they kill themselves and blame it on us.
That's right.
Blow their faces off.
I
and
gave
they look
him
like
a good Christian upbringing.
dope, man.
What happened?
I tanned his ass every day. He should have turned out just fine if it wasn't for that record.
Tanned his ass.
Because no kids committed suicide yet listening a Nirvana song.
Let's hope.
They're committing social suicide.
And this is so typical American. You never get that in Europe or in Germany.
Well, this is, I don't know, there's a lot of symptoms out there, like kids killing themselves, or people walking in McDonald's and blowing people away.
They're always killing people that don't deserve it, though.
Yeah.
You know, if you're gonna go kill a bunch of people, why not assassinate someone who deserves it? You know.
But they don't show that as like a symptom. They just say that's a problem, random act of violence. But maybe that's a symptom of the kind of country we live in, people's values. You know what I mean? I say they're all just fucked. I'll answer that question first off by saying that everybody's fucked, if you ask me. And then where do we take it from there? We're all fucked. All right, well, we've established something, some kind of criteria, like a base to where to get onto. Maybe we're all
And how are they fucked?
And how are they fucked? Well, I don't want to think about that because that just involves effort. You know what I mean?
Because then if I just waste my time thinking about it and we create some kind of dialogue about it for a while, then we'll just come back to the conclusion that everybody's fucked.
Everybody's fucked, you know. So we just have to take up smoking and live a leisurely lifestyle. You know, bomb some third world countries, walk into McDonald's and shopping malls with automatic weapons readily available.
Hey, if life gets too tough, just buy an AK-47 and walk into McDonald's. You'll feel better.
Yeah, because you hate Mondays. What's your favorite day of the week?
Fun?
What's your favorite day of the week?
I guess Wednesday.
Wednesday?
Yeah.
Because you're in the middle of the week. When's Friday, man? TGIF. Thank God it's Friday.
That's a good move.
Sunday, because it's the Sabbath, the day of the Lord. But if you're a Seventh-day Adventist, your Sabbath is on a Saturday, and they don't eat meat, by the way. And they seem like nice people. I don't know how preachy they get. So if I was to like subscribe to any kind of Christian dogma, maybe be a Seventh-day Adventist.
I'd be a Jehovah Witness.
You'd be a hobo witness. Kurt's walking around peddling watchtowers. Hobo witness.
I'd be a Mormon.
Mormon.
By the way, who's that Francis Farmer who's going to have a revenge on Seattle?
What? What about it?
What denomination was she?
What about it? Oh, you should read Dreamland by this PI reporter. I wrote this book about her. It's really good. She was, you know her story, don't you? She was an actress that she was kind of a foul-mouthed person.
What's a
you know, and she hated the whole Hollywood scene, and she expressed her hatred for them publicly, and so, and she also, when she was like, I think she was 15, she entered this essay contest when she was living here in Seattle, entitled "God is Dead," and a lot of people accused her of being a communist. And then she went to New York and was a part of this acting troupe. And so it supposedly had communist ties too. And so then there's this big conspiracy amongst a judge, a very well-known, prominent judge here in Seattle, and a bunch of other people who had ties with Hollywood, and they basically just set her up and ruined her life, you know. They, you know, had some pictures taken of her when she was arrested for drunk driving, and it was a big, huge scandal, and she eventually was sent to a mental institution and given a lobotomy and raped every day for years, and just totally abused, and ended up, like, working at a Four Seasons restaurant alone and dying by herself.
There's a Bay Ridge Island. That's where she was institutionalized, right over there.
Mm-hmm.
There's this whole broken down like infirmary there.
For years, every night there were lines of custodians, friends, and people, you know, part of the staff who would wait in line to rape her every day. You know, she went through a lot of shit. And it just disgusts me, you know, to know that there are some of the people that are part of that conspiracy are living here in Seattle in their comfortable, cushy little homes with their families. And, you know, it's 20, you know, it's 40 years after the fact, and it's just.
He's a just God,
makes
not
me
a
want to
fair
kill
one.
him. Yeah.
That's what the Christians say.
Citizens.
God, why was there Auschwitz? Well, I'm a just God, not a fair one. Oh, okay. You know?
Yeah.
Why is there law in Mabon? Oh, Ask St. Paul. He'll tell you all about it. He wrote this book called the Bible. I'm the little Jew that wrote the Bible.
Do you have already set a tour up?
Not for Europe, just for the States. I'm gonna take it one tour at a time. I mean, we definitely want to and plan to go over to Europe, you know, in Japan, Australia.
It'll probably be probably January or something like that. We'll be in Europe.
I mean, touring must have changed for you quite a lot too. Suddenly being confronted with this giant machinery, a hell of a lot of people. I mean, when you play big venues, you need a hell of a lot of people and equipment and a real organization behind it.
Yeah, we used to drive around, just three guys in a van.
Yeah.
And
but, you know, compared to a lot of other bands that are on our scale, like we only have like a handful of roadies, people, and a tour manager and a helper for him, you know. It's like a lot of bands that are bigger than us, or as big as us, you know, have like 50 people on the road with them. It's just a big, confusing, stupid thing that happens. We're still really down to earth in that area, and we may suffer for it a lot of times because we don't get things done, but oh well.
Save a lot of money.
It's just funner and simpler that way.
You could.
Yeah.
Having a family, did that change your attitude towards music at all?
Not towards the music.
But to the life combined with it?
That seemed that much more optimistic. I mean, I totally, I like having a family. It's fun. It's great. But, you know, I'm still angry about a lot of other things, you know, in life, so it doesn't really, you know, stop me from being angry in music. It hasn't changed us very much.
Do you sometimes do you write together with your wife?
What?
Do you sometimes write together with your wife or create stuff?
Sometimes we usually, I wouldn't say it's really writing, it's just jamming, just playing together.
I think Royal Penny Tea.
What?
Royal Penny Tea.
Penny Royal Tea?
Penny Royal Tea,
yeah. Well, they're covering that song. It's mostly my song, you know. But, kind of just jammed on it together, and they want to record a version of it. You know.
Okay, I'm gonna finish. Thanks a lot. How many more do you have to do today?
I don't know.
Metropole gilt derzeit als die Hauptstadt der Rock.